Howdy everybody in rugby land. I hope you're well. This is Rehu Sports preview of Saturday night's action of Super Rugby Trans Tasman. It's round 5, the last round robin round. Next week will be the final. And who's going to make it into the final? Well, it's going to be rather dramatic weekend, I reckon. Hey, if you haven't subscribed already to the YouTube channel, check it out down there. Click subscribe and also some likes. Oh yeah, some likes and especially some comments. We want to hear your comments. There was a great discussion last night on the Friday night preview, so really appreciate your comments. So just taking a look at the draw for this weekend. We've done the Friday night preview, so we've taken care of the Hurricanes, the Reds, the Brumbies and the Highlanders. Saturday's games are the ones we'll be focusing on. The Rebels will host the Crusaders in Sydney. The Blues, with all to play for at Eden Park, have the Force to take on, and the Chiefs away again against the Waratahs. So they're the three games we'll be covering. Just to look at the points table before Friday's action starts. As you can see, the Blues ahead by 1 point. The Highlanders are equal with the Crusaders, but they have a points differential lead of 9 points. So everybody will be waiting to see what happens on Friday night to see if the Highlanders can get a big win with a bonus point, put some pressure on the Crusaders who are first up on the Saturday, and they are playing the Rebels. So let's take a look at the Rebels team. First of all, the forwards, who were good in patches last week. They struggled a bit at the scrum, but they put a couple together. And Isi Naisarani, he was the big star, playing in front of Dave Rennie, saying, as Jimmy Kerr did it with Simple Minds, "Don't you forget about me." He's going to find it hard to get over Harry Wilson, but he played really well. Michael Wells, the captain too, he's big and strong, but I think the tight five are going to struggle against the Crusaders. And in the backs, one guy who's impressed me is Carter Gordon. I think he's a tough, nuggety little fella. Reminds me of like a country first five in New Zealand. He's got the smarts. He's quite tough and steady. Glenn Rehu gets his first starting debut for the Rebels. He's had 5 games off the bench so far. No Maddox, so they'll struggle at the back probably. Callaway's been outstanding since his return from Japan. He goes into the centres with Rehu. Korombeti, waiting for him to catch fire. Lamani's always been good off the bench as well. So speaking of the bench, a couple of debuts off the bench too. A couple of leagueies coming in. Young Tonu Maipia. He played the last couple of seasons for the Gold Coast Titans. And an ex-Bronco, Ilikena Vorongo, also waiting to get his debut off the bench. So, pretty good 23 for the Rebels, but they're up against the might of the Crusaders, who of course will be out to win. Oh, the pressure will be on them to win, but yeah, they've selected a decent team. Bauer, Whitelock, Morgner, Reese all return to the starting side. Actually, Cody Taylor's rested. He hasn't even made the trip to Sydney. Obviously keeping him in Cottonmore for a potential final. So Brodie McAllister, who's back from his head knock, he'll start in Taylor's absence. And the loose forwards, another man who's just come back as well from concussion, Ethan Blackadder, who was named Champion Crusader of the Week in the week. Champion Crusader of the Year during the week. Moonga was the outstanding player, but yeah, they have a special award for somebody who typifies Crusaderness. So Grace is out. He's got a hip injury. Fetu Kamal Douglas goes to 8. Drummond in 9 instead of Bryn. And of course Bryn Hall will be on the bench. Dallas McLeod makes it to the bench as well as Mataile. So that's a pretty good team to face the Rebels. You'd even have to say if the Highlanders get a bonus point victory, I think the Crusaders have probably got a 35-point win in them. They'll be up for it and they'll look to smash these guys early. It's at Leichhardt Oval, so it'll be a bit warmer than the Crusaders are used to in the last few weeks, but that won't be an issue for them, and hopefully it'll be dry for them to throw it around. It'll be a brave man to bet against them not to make the final, and that's even without considering what the Blues are going to do. So, yeah, I'm picking a 35-point victory for the Crusaders, and I don't think the Highlanders will be able to do that against the Brumbies the night before. So the Blues, we're just talking about the Blues, and they host the Force at Eden Park. It's a stronghold for them, and they've selected a very good 23 as well. Hoskin Sotutu comes back at number 8. Akira Ioane has been good, and he started last week, but he's on the bench this week. And the front row, they're doing a bit of swapsies too. Hodgman is to start, and he came on, tackled his heart out. I think he had something like 11 tackles in 20 minutes. It was crazy. So Carl Tuinukuafi has the bench at loose head, and Laulala gets his 6th start of the year at tight head. Ofa Tuangafasi got some niggly knees, niggly hands. Goodhue on the bench, Josh Goodhue, and another man who's a fresh face is Ray Nuia, who will make his 2nd appearance. He ruptured his ACL in the opening game of the 2020 season, so it's a welcome back to Ray, who will probably get some time off the bench. So their opponents are the Force, who got back to their plucky best last week by spoiling the party for the Crusaders, and they've got another pretty smart team on show for this week as well. Ian Pryor made his 100th game appearance for Super Rugby last week. He's been named at scrum half to start, pairing up with McIntyre instead of the Argentinians. Cabelli misses the match. He's got a toe injury. Miotti moves to the bench. A man that I've been impressed with, a young man, Ollie Callan, who's a West Australian local. He's not the biggest man, but boy, he's brave. He got some big traffic up his channel last week and cut it down without hesitation. It was good to see, actually. Richard Kahui moves to the right wing, and that makes room for Oluwalafala, who starts on the left wing in place of Tony Pulu. Now, I did predict, I like to say these things when I get them right, that Pulu would give Whaiana Nuku some problems on the left wing, and he did with his pace too. Leicester's inclination to go inside on defence just left him a little short, and he didn't have the pace to cover with Pulu when Force scored their first try. Stander's back in the 23 as well. Anstey's out. And Michael McDonald also comes back from injury. First Super Rugby appearance for the Force. He's from Palmyra, one of the local clubs. And Rob Kearney, to be sure, is on the bench as well, who had some concussion problems as well. Well, you can never discount the Force, can you? At your peril, anyway. The Hurricanes, they were pretty shoddy. But the other 3 matches they've played so far, they have been gutsy, prickly, and just nasty. Horrible, horrible team to play against. They're always in the fight. Gutsy. Love watching them, actually. They're really cool. But I don't think they're going to have what it takes to beat the Blues at Eden Park, especially with the Blues needing this victory. The Blues may not get the bonus point victory. It's very hard to score against this Force team, but I'm certainly sure they'll get the win, and I'm saying they'll get it by 12 points. And it'll probably be enough to give them a home final in the House of Rugby in New Zealand that we love, Eden Park. All right, the third game on the Saturday is the Waratahs hosting the Chiefs, and the Waratahs have just announced their team. I think they've had a few problems with injury. Well, I have. Jake Gordon's out now. Maddox is out. Poreki from last week's teams against the Highlanders, they're all out. So Angus Bell, Johnson Holmes, they're great props. Ben Donaldson also very good. They've been missing as well for the last week or two. So not great. Tom Horton, the hooker, comes into the starting side. He's been playing shoot shield. And Andrew Tuala, the Aucklander originally, and Te Tera Faulkner in the front row. Goodness me, he's played for as many clubs as you can imagine as well, hasn't he? And also great to see Raboni Warren Vosiako, who was a Sunwolf, if I'm not wrong. So he makes his run-on debut at number 8. Swinton, he's been tough and gutsy all year. Jack Grant comes in at halfback because of that injury to Jake Gordon, who's so influential. And he'll team up with Will Harrison. And at the back, Nawanga Nitawasi comes into fullback from the wing, which makes room for James Ram. So yes, they have improved this year, but struggled with injury. Now the Chiefs, Clayton McMillan made 3 changes to the starting forward pack. Ross comes in again, who's been in form all year, certainly in all black and waiting, so O'Neill goes to the bench. Slater gets the start over Toke Aho, And Zane Capelli, who's more known as a loose forward, almost a 7, is going to get some time at lock with Tupo Vai, and Taulani will cover the bench. The Counties Manukau flanker Tom Florence also on the bench as cover. So they've got plenty of loose forwards, but virtually no second rows apart from Vai. You would have seen Josh Law go off for that big cut last week. In the back line, further 3 changes. Weber will start at halfback, replacing Xavier Rowe. Quinn Tupaia and Alex Nankivell will pair in the centre, so that means Anton Leonard-Brown. Probably the All Blacks have said that he needs some time off. He's shifting to the bench at jersey 22. And Sean Wainui comes back from injury, starting on the left wing. So that's still a pretty good team, and I think it's probably a team that's going to beat the Waratahs by 21 points. What do you think? What do you think of those 3 predictions? Let me know. Comment on YouTube or on Facebook. Would love to hear from you. Subscribe on YouTube. And I'll be back next week to preview the final. I'm going down to Nelson to see my mum. All good rugby people. Rugby's a great game, but family's even more important, isn't it, to be sure. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week. Take care. This has been a production of Tahu Films. All the best.